Seeing as how it is 6 o'clock, and this is a reorganizational meeting for the Jackson School Board, I'd like to call it to order. The first order of business is to elect a chair for the Jackson School Board. So I have a nomination for a chair.
Nominate Jerry.
Second.
Any discussion? He's not running yet. He's not running away. So. All those in favor of electing Jerry Dockley as chair of the Jackson School Board, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The meeting is yours, Mr.
You have to
Dockley.
accept it. You have to accept it.
Please accept it.
I was going to say, well, my first year as a school board member, they threw me in as a chair.
Yeah.
And I had no words for it. It's a good way to get your feedback. Next up is the election of vice chair. Do I have any nominations for vice chair?
Nominate Jed.
I will second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting dates and times. Does it's the third Monday in the month, is what we usually target for dates. 6 o'clock, and now that we're here, we should probably continue to as always, sometimes it changes due to circumstances. On a regular meeting, it's usually the third Mondays in the month. I don't think we do need to vote for the calendar, or is it just kind of
No, if you guys are good with that, we can keep it same, and we can do it.
Rules of order, we adopt Robert's Rules of Order. That's the way to conduct business.
Can we go a little more casual, maybe, Bob?
I think we've been using Bob over the years.
You can say anything done.
And that is just the way we conduct business. It's actually by law we can't operate by Robert's rules, but it's it's what we follow in order to conduct business, basically. We'll keep the same agenda format that we've had. Committee assignments.
I have a suggestion on that. Every year we say, okay, we'll look at it and talk about it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And you can see that some of the names down there. No, I say that, okay, let's do that, but let's start 20 minutes early next meeting, let's sit down and hammer it out and get it done.
That's probably a good idea. Because we kind of lapse on that.
Yeah.
We should maybe look at which committees we actually need and don't need anymore. Because if we have a need for something to pop up, we can always form a committee for it. But a lot of them we never even need or think about, which might be distracting from the things we shouldn't actually be doing.
Yeah.
So next meeting we meet at 5:30.
Yeah, maybe in the meantime, everybody can pick committees you think you'd be good at.
Sorry,
We'll be fair and judicious. I think that's happened to all of us at one point or another.
So I will put a work session at 5:40 prior to that.
Because Scott, at your last meeting, you guys kind of, I think you trashed some committees. Can you suggest maybe getting rid of some of the committees you had?
It was just one.
Just one.
They never met in 6 years.
Oh, I've been on 7 to 10 years that I've done that. We've got lots of them.
Maybe we'll look at condensing the committees and actually having real goals for them, or real plans for some of the committees, so they don't just, they're not just everything. And manifests, can be signed by everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, back to adopting rules of order and an agenda. Everyone okay with the chair voting?
Yes.
As well. Committee sign the manifests, everyone can sign, but it's typically the chair and vice chair. Good with that. First up on the agenda then is to next up on the agenda is to minutes from March 1st.
Second.
Yes, I will. Would like to welcome Kate to the board. Thank you for volunteering your service. And look forward to back to business with you. Minutes, any changes, comments?
No, they were great. Thank you.
All those in favor? She's, you were very glad to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, so good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could still vote to approve them either way. That brings us to citizen comments. All right, at this point. Ms. Ault?
I did write something, and I wanted to share it with you all, because it's the topic of what's being taught in our schools. The topic is civics. So this is what I wrote. Last school board meeting, I wanted to raise the discussion on school safety. Instead, our schools focused on advertising the quote Women's March movement and displayed their marches to protest against Second Amendment rights. This was a political move, not a way to learn civics. The topic of school safety is still unsolved. It seems like nobody wants to take on the responsibility of having an armed guard or a trained staff member in case of an emergency. They rather be politically popular and disregard the safety of our schools. It was shocking to hear the school board call these school walkouts, quote, civics. First of all, what our schools are promoting is not civics. A walkout against our civil rights is not civics. Promoting an organization such as Women's, quote, Women's March is not civics. The Women's March organization is a corrupt, far-left agenda that has openly spoke of their work to legalize female prostitution. Their agenda is also to repeal the Constitution and our civil rights. This organization is funded by foreign billionaires who hate our country and want nothing more than to divide our nation. Let us remember what is civics. Civics is learning what it means to be New Hampshire first. We are first in the nation for many historical reasons. Civics is learning that it was New Hampshire gun owners, not a well-regulated militia, not an army, not marchers or protesters, and not diplomats who fought and won the American Revolution against the British Crown. We won America, the greatest nation on earth. We were the first in the nation to sign the Declaration of Independence and the first to write our own state constitution, which was the blueprint for the official United States Constitution. How many of our students know this? How many of our students have actually read our New Hampshire Constitution? How many teachers have read it? Civics is learning what it means to, quote, live free or die. When our greatest founding father spoke his final words. Civics is learning that our founding mother was a fierce gun owner who advocated for science and vaccination, which ended up saving millions of lives, while the government institution was against it. Civics is learning about our rights and how we must protect our rights, or else suffer the same fate as my parents did when they were forced to flee their countries. I want children to learn about something empowering and inspiring in schools. I want them to learn real civics, and that starts with New Hampshire history first. I want them to learn about our beautiful history and not the history of what my parents had to endure. Both my parents are immigrants from war-torn countries who gave up their rights. They came to New Hampshire where we are free and safe. Do not believe the lies that other countries are safer or more free. The agenda for anti-gun radicals is to create mass hysteria, and this creates a problem where there is none. Although without civil engagement, the Constitution is only a piece of paper. Civil engagement begins with the facts, not our opinions on the matter, and certainly not biased popular demands. Historical facts, many of you have yet to read about, are the framework for our safety. A fact is, New Hampshire is one of the few states to preserve our rights such as the right to keep and bear arms. And our state has never had a mass shooting with very few gun restrictions. This is no coincidence. It is because the right to keep and bear arms keeps us safe, whether directly or indirectly. Similar to vaccinations, we are indirectly protected by those who practice their rights. This is science, and it was disturbing to see so many far-left liberal teachers or presumed adults who do not get this science. That is why every right is vital to be taught in schools in great depth. Teaching children their rights, knowing their rights, is civics.
Are there any other comments? Hearing none. Hearing none, we'll move along. Any FYI items, Kevin?
No, I mean, under presentation of school programs, I did speak with Principal Dembowski and Jim Heisler at the next board meeting. They've been very active in getting some funding for the class, the pavilion project. So you will see, I know that I signed out on a grant the other day, so that will be forthcoming. And we're talking about some pretty substantial money, which is, again, a tribute to not only the Jackson community, but that project that the kids are working on. So that'll be coming your way.
I'm sorry, I should have said at the beginning of the meeting, I asked Gail not to come this evening because she has a long drive over in the weather. I do thank you all for coming out tonight. We didn't have much on the agenda for the meeting Gail here tonight, so I'm glad that she didn't come tonight. Old business, early.
Is there no comment from the school board about civics?
We don't have any. Old business, early childhood education. Jesse called me today and a little bit of discussion about this. I think that as a board, we're going to decide how we want to move this forward and what we want to do with it. And Jesse kind of came up with the idea, he spoke with Jen, I guess, at one point, and Katie too, at one point, that maybe we should have a May meeting where we invite the public, and I don't know, it would really be a listening post as much as it would be kind of maybe a listening post hybrid work session where we just got together and kind of hash things out and have a discussion about how we want to move forward, what we want it to look like. And then maybe we will come up with a more comprehensive plan on the process that we would use to get there. But I do think that would be a continued discussion that we're going to have, given the closest of the vote. I think that it's kind of our duty to anyway, decide how we can move forward. I think that maybe having a meeting like that might be the best way to kind of get it started and get it going. I know there's some people here tonight that have been in that process all along. I was basically trying to give people the opportunity to participate and come up with a plan together on how we want to move it forward from all sides of the issue, really. So
What is this in regards to?
The preschool.
Oh.
So one of the things we've been thinking about since our last meeting is that there is still some discussion and input that should be had, because clearly there was a very close vote and it was tied. So talk about civics, right? It's,
I'm just wondering why my topic is being completely ignored and nobody wants to say nothing. I mean, you have nothing to say about school safety, civics, what's being taught, nothing.
So our citizen comments are really an opportunity for people to come and tell us what might be on their minds. We're not always prepared to comment towards public comments or to answer questions that might be asked in public comments. That doesn't mean that those topics aren't being considered and aren't being looked at. The issue of school safety has been one that we're actively engaged in and continue to be, and always will be.
and just a very brief comment. You covered a lot of material there, and you made a number of statements. It would take us hours to unfurl all of that and to have a discussion about what a person loves civics. I think it's a wonderful topic. It is something that the SAU is constantly talking about. The Department of Ed is constantly talking about it. It's a big topic. So it's not something that we could possibly get into right now. And I don't think you want us to, because don't you want us to think about what you've said?
Yes,
And come up with a
absolutely.
reasoned response?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, for my one person part, that is why I'm not adding anything. It would actually be helpful for you to share that so that we go in minutes so people can see it, because that's part of civics too, is everyone understanding what the conversations are about. So,
Yeah. I just think that,
She sent a copy of the
Oh, okay.
order today, so that.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it.
So thank
if
you.
you need another copy, I'll tell you.
So I didn't know that, so.
But, yeah, so in the future, I would like some kind of discussion about it. Or your input, each individual's input from the board.
Thank you.
So in any number, the preschool, one of the things we've talked about since the last meeting is that obviously given the vote, we need to move forward with it as a school board to decide what to do. So there were a lot of really well thought out, important points that were made that we need to think about and address one way or another in deciding how to move forward. So one of the things we talked about is if we just had a 1 hour meeting, let people know it would be 1 hour. What we could do is talk about some of the issues we heard, let other folks add what is on their minds. Some of you were here tonight, and it would be helpful for people who have concerns to be here. So if we advertise and let people know, we've tried to do that all along, but what we thought is, maybe May 8th, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I don't know if that works. I know it works for you, hopefully for you. We could have a work session and start to move that in one direction in another. And whether we move forward with a similar plan or completely change it, it would be up to the people that are at that meeting. But we have to do something because of how the vote came out and because of how the board has addressed it thus far.
I'm just going to say one thing on that, and say, please take this the right way. This is not in a condescending way. This is the first time we're hearing about it. You guys have all chatted about this. The article was defeated by one vote. There was one school board member who didn't vote against it. Maybe that person should be included as well.
Yeah, that's what this is for. But that's
I
what
know,
this is
but
for.
I said you guys have all had discussions.
No, but it was not a group discussion, it was individual. And let me say this, Jerry and I just spoke about it. I would personally like to ask you to chair any movement that goes forward.
I'm not saying I want to do that. I'm saying that I've had some good input.
But let me say this, I'm hesitant to do it because I don't know you well, and
Yeah.
I don't want to put obligations on other people.
Yeah.
I think we would be
No, and that's why I
better.
said, take it the right way.
And I do,
I couldn't get behind this before because I felt like there was so much, I didn't know that everything was going on the side. I just couldn't go get behind it. Like,
right, so, the only conversation that was had was trying to figure out how do we talk about this? And in part, is I felt there was an onus since I had brought much of the ball this far in, not in doing everything, but just in organizing things,
Yeah.
to keep it moving. So that was why, and Jerry, I spoke to you, like, I don't know, 4:30, that was the most we talked about it. So I'll say it again, I wouldn't want to appoint you, but I would definitely love it. If someone feels like they can take this and move it forward one way or another, and for me, it's that let's get resolution one way or another. Either we have something we can all get behind, that it will benefit the town and our kids that we have a duty to, or let's move it off of the agenda. So if there are concerns, let's get them out, let's talk about it. We've been talking about this for 4 years, so So keep the president is basically what I'm saying. So maybe,
Did he say that it lost by one vote?
it was a tie vote, and tie votes go to negative.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe.
okay.
Yeah, so the idea was made, but it's for whoever can need it. The whole board has to be, how you want to do it. And again, this is just to start the conversation again.
I think we can all be there, so.
Okay.
We can listen Thursday.
It's a Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, okay.
So that's what I would think an outcome of that meeting would be a new group committee, so that was the new committee, to move that forward, I guess, based on what the input that would be.
I think what will have to happen, Emily, is that, we'll have that meeting, then we'll have our school board meeting short time after that.
Oh.
That's what the plan on what the process will look like.
Okay, so just purely sort of an input,
Where we all stand. Yeah.
listening.
This is something we can all get behind.
Okay.
Because, no matter what our options are, either taking it off the table and not talking about it anymore,
Right.
to any options that we might have available to us. I think that from that meeting, we're hoping to get ideas on how it should be moving forward. And then once we come up with ideas on how to do that, then we'll have to design the process around that.
Okay.
But it really depends on how we want to move it forward. Like,
So we've got to do it a little bit early to try to accommodate more people, or just in terms of the timing to grab more people who have. It's a variety.
Just for us, right?
no,
it's open.
that's what I said. It would probably be kind of a hybrid. It would be a work session that we'd be inviting the public to participate in, basically.
I'm just seeing two things, I'm just wondering, I mean, who knows what the magic time is, but just being sensitive to that and people wanting to make it. And then I think that an hour is awesomely optimistic, and I think that given the discussion, the level of discussion, maybe like planning for an hour and a half as much as just to sort of like give people the sense that they can, and if we don't need the time.
This wouldn't be the last, but Jess and I talked about that, we felt, if we kept it on task,
Yeah.
and we kept moving with it, an hour would be sufficient.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
Like, this is it, we're working on it, and not have people just going off and off and off.
Great.
Like, refocusing, keeping it
Yeah.
going, and gathering the information. So it's really a regather of information, not necessarily it's on or off, we're regathering the information and looking at ways to champion it or get it off the plate. But an hour of a constructive session, I think, would be good. And it would help the people who are working. We want them to be here at 6:30. Because we've heard earlier meetings, those people who work can't necessarily be here. So we could have another one earlier, but
Yeah.
I would say this one, we just have to stake in the ground.
And
So,
just to, so you understand the rationale, because of the timing of how the school board has to make decisions, we would need to bring anything forward again by late fall. So counting back from that and accounting for summertime, the idea was simply just to let school board members know, we can't move forward, and we're body. So if three of the five of us tonight said, no, we don't want to do that, then we would say, okay, well, then we're going to come up with something else. It's simply an organizational meeting to say, what have we heard? What do we need to do? Is there a committee that's going to be formed? Is there an individual on the board that's going to take it? Because we have not spoken about it since that meeting. So,
Sarah?
Yes, Sarah Clemens. I know I've gotten some material from you speaking of what took place through the different committees, meetings that you had, and possibly putting a few of those in a box or something, or the school side would come in with, because you don't want a lot of traffic because of the safety issue, but possibly at the library or at the town office, just saying information, and you gave me like 4 or 5 different papers.
was it meeting minutes that I didn't?
Yeah.
Because I kept my notes of things, but minutes we tried to keep.
Right, it was a
Report
discussion kind of what went through, just that might minimize what you're talking about repeats.
Jess, I've got a binder started at the library.
right.
That would be perfect for that. And
If I forward them to you. Okay.
If you just ask for the front desk, they've got it behind the desk, some other kinds of similar binders.
Okay.
And it's all set up with minutes, agendas, handouts that have been going around in this last year or so about all this talk.
Okay.
And again, maybe put it on e-news more than once, because sometimes people don't check it out.
That, I like that idea a lot, actually. So between like the library and the town offices, to have,
The library, town office, or the post office even, you know? But I just think, if it's on the e-news, that you can look at it there, or you can go to the library, and there's a folder.
So if I get on the school website, that I don't know, but yeah, I think the presentations, and, you know, we try to have summary documents that each figure it out. Well, but Susan, if I get you things, can you forward them to the appropriate places? Or do you want me to
just me delivering them to the
Oh, yes, oh, I see that. I didn't know if you had like your,
Yeah,
I don't know,
I mean,
sequence.
I'm happy to do it, just on this one. Right now I have a binder at the library, if you would tell me where else you would like a binder, then I'll happily pull it together.
Okay.
Okay, Susan.
So just a thought that I feel like, Sarah, maybe your questions about like all the different comments about preschool, and I'm wondering if we have a binder that has everything that's happened for the school board, if we're actually trying to focus this conversation, that maybe what we could ask for instead is the summary document that was at the last meeting, at the vote, and if there was anything else that could be augmented in there. So I know that a couple people had talked about a little bit more of the history of like all the different things that have been vetted, and that might actually set the meeting up for success, that people can come in and they can look at this and be like, oh, that's been talked about, or this hasn't. And I think that maybe that can help streamline it. So is that possible to produce?
So we have a timeline of events since this first started.
Definitely.
We tried to keep updated. We tried to bring that to each meeting that we would have. I think at one point we had a short fact sheet early on. We didn't generally share minutes because the protocol is that these small committees, most of them don't take minutes. I just kept them because I was concerned that we didn't, just because I'm a big dork. I don't know why I kept them, but we did. So we do have minutes. But the only thing I would caution is that I wouldn't want them to distract from the new conversation, because whoever takes this on from here, let whoever's involved craft whatever happens. I mean, maybe what we can do is say, this is where we're at. I can get you what we've got now. What was the plan that was voted on? What was the timeline? You know, things like that. And then whatever happens with the group that gets together, I'm happy to be a resource. I have kept everything. I'm happy to share everything. Part of it is I don't want to flood people with information and just and talk about getting mired down.
Of course.
I mean, it's this, Emily, how many, it's been years, having in Scotland or school board, it's hours and hours and hours of conversations and things. So I wouldn't want to mire people down with it, of course.
But I think there is a real, I have a vision on how we might be able to put some information
That sounds like
together.
chair talk, so I'm going to leave that to you guys for the next meeting.
So anyways, I think something that we can share.
Let me know if we can talk about it. Whatever people need, I'll gladly offer what I can.
I'll listen to others.
So,
With the daycare, was it daycare or preschool, I'm sorry, preschool program, I just didn't understand in the beginning why they even needed a vote to just get it started, because they could have just, you know, put in a preschool program that where people pay in, you know, individuals, any outsiders can pay into, and they could start up the program just like that, without asking for $100,000 in funds. And that would get approved real quick, I'm sure.
May 6:30 to 7:30?
Yeah,
So
I mean, we can
we'll
talk
flesh-
about that.
We'll flesh out that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, just so kind of like, there was actually some people who could pay. So that was one of the reasons that didn't come up, but maybe and beyond, we can come back around to all these things.
And we'll have that meeting here.
Sounds good. Keith, what do you think? You? But,
I disagree that we should let the public speak in that meeting, but I'm only one of five.
I would.
I think that we should, and we know what we're doing already. We know, I think we have enough information that we as a board should make a decision first and then ask for input second.
And just very.
That's my personal opinion.
I would speak
I
to.
am afraid I've seen how our meetings go sometimes, and we're going to schedule an hour and a half for a 2.5 hour meeting of everyone not going to be in any. I think it might be hard for us to make decisions.
No, one of the things that I think we'll need to decide as a board is we have taken in a lot of input. I know there, you know, people wish it was on the news more. I can tell you as a person who was doing it, I don't think we could have done more to get it out. Maybe we failed. I personally, it must just be my limitations as whoever ran it, because I'm not sure how much more word we could get out. We had a lot of meetings. They were advertised, it's been on our agenda for a long time. Hopefully people will make it to more meetings now, and we'll do our best to keep redoing that, to keep at that and get more information out. But I agree with you, Keith, that we're at a point now where there's some simple decisions. Do we stick with the plan that came forward and modify that? Do we come up with something new? We've got new information now. We have a public preschool that's opening, right? So is that a different conversation? So it's decisions that need to be made, and I think we do understand the issues, so.
I think the your concern, Keith, is a real one, and it's how do we move forward, just like in the conversation that Jess and I had today. My idea was to, let's kind of, at our May meeting, form a committee and start moving it forward if we want to. And Jess's reply to that was that there are community members that feel as though they've been excluded from the process and their voices haven't been heard. And so that's kind of where I was thinking, well, maybe it'll kind of be a hybrid work session where we can get some input from the community. So the people that feel like they haven't been able to voice their opinions about this or voice what their ideas are, haven't been heard. How do we deal with that? And that's why it became that, but maybe it isn't a good idea to do that. I don't.
It might not be. It might be a fine idea. It just could be dangerous.
That's why I like the idea of it being an hour meeting. We're only going to have an hour meeting, so we're going to try to. I know you're smiling.
An hour in Jackson.
Part of the idea there is that it's a 1 hour meeting where we make decisions about what are we doing to move forward. Do we need more information about what Bartlett's doing? Who's hunting that down and getting that? Are we looking at another plan? That type of thing. You could certainly, one of the things we talked about is if down the line, hold more listening posts, so more than one in the evening one, so the parents can come, who can't hear it, So I don't know if we necessarily need to hear from everybody that May night. It's really more like, are we moving forward and how?
And I'm open to, if people can't make it, that they can submit their either questions or comments, in writing, and that they can be reviewed as well, taken into consideration.
Is this on May 8th, what time?
6:30.
6:30 p.m.?
Yes.
Although we'll be smart to start probably 6:30 in the morning. That could be a 12-hour meeting pretty easily. We'll move on. We'll just see how it goes on May 8th. And if you want me to run that meeting, maybe I'll do it with the idea of I'll do my best to limit comments
I think
and
we'll have a little pre-structure meeting.
restructure.
I think we should try to structure it like a school board meeting and ask for comments when we need them. Have comment sections, just to give us time that we can actually talk about things we need to talk about for that hour goes with everybody, like you said, talking about things that have already been talked about. I know you said some people feel like that they're out of the loop in this whole thing, but I don't feel that's our fault. We've had meetings and made notes and all this. And if you feel like you don't, have all the information, I know.
Maybe we have the discussion. We have the discussion, and at some point through that discussion, we open it up to public comments,
Citizen comments,
section comments, and then go back to our.
We can have a little frame on, I think, just like to fill out.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We'll have an agenda that mimics ours, and if you two can shoot that to me or to Kevin before.
Yeah, and you can post it, so if you have an agenda for that, you can, because they're all going to be there, so.
Great.
So you want us to give ideas to you for agenda items?
Yeah, just, we'll just spend half an hour and come up with an agenda.
Okay. We can start
I
drafting.
think we just
Yes.
Just not
discuss
highlight.
preschool. Citizen comments.
No, it can be.
1 and 2.
I do think it would be helpful, and we talked about this very briefly. I think we do need to get it on the public record. The school board acknowledges there was a tie vote. We are planning to move forward. We don't know what that will look like, because one of the pieces of feedback I've gotten since then is there are lots of folks in Jackson who think, well, it's a relief, that's done. That was a nice effort. We don't have to worry about that anymore. And I said to them, I said, I'm one person, but I think we have a duty to keep talking about it until there is a resolution, whatever that is. So I think we have to just acknowledge that, because I think there are people who are now not going to be paying attention until the budget season next year, because they think the conversation's over, and then they'll feel like we didn't know, because we didn't, so that's all I'm saying.
Maybe some catchy in e-news, did you vote yes on the preschool before? Come to a meeting, did you vote no on the preschool before?
Come to our meeting.
Knows why?
But not the May 8th one, because it's only 16 minutes, no, I'm just kidding.
All right. We'll have it again then.
We'll keep it.
All right. Instructional, oh, sorry, KHS program and studies, do we have anyone that tonight?
Normally, we need to leave that on as much as maybe it should be changed to start some preliminary discussions on contract stuff. I see the some sending towns to the letter to the editor of the paper last week, I don't know if you guys saw that. So there's some stuff, other towns are starting to, the ball rolling and have similar complaints that we do.
And we have a joint meeting with Bartlett.
Right.
In May. What day is that?
Well, May 1st.
May 1st? Yeah, first on the first.
1 hour.
Is that right? Or here?
One of the things I brought up at the Bartlett meeting was that Joe always gave that kind of glory presentation about pretty much stuff that we all should know anyway.
Yeah.
And it was information that should be shared, and yeah, we want to hear the principal there, but maybe try to target those meetings so they're a little more productive, meaning
Yeah.
let's come up with the things we need to talk about and
So have the issues
and have
instead of-
and have a discussion about them so that it's a little more productive anyway. And so we're thinking that maybe we should come up with some topics for that.
I think we should put preschool on there.
Preschool, maybe the program studies, maybe it's built with the contract and how, because I think we should work with Bartlett in discussions about the contract.
Oh, yeah, I think with some of the other sending towns too, that we should reach out to.
And the other thing was, as you're looking closely at your committees, the Bartlett folks are taking a look at their committees to see if there are common committees that either you folks would join with them or at the SAU level as well.
I think it'll run share as a Barlow Jackson type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there are similarities.
Yeah, I think we're going to be sharing more and more services with Bartlett as the needs arise.
So Tuesday, May 1st is a Tuesday?
It's a Monday at times.
It is.
Tuesday.
So that's when the school board student voices discussion is from 6 to 8 p.m. Oh, maybe that's a statewide, I'm sorry. There's another big discussion about, I'll bring it up at the board member issues at another time. Okay.
Yeah. So can you just, okay, just got a second. Okay, just so you understand, it's always confusing the number of different boards that we, so we have our meetings every the third Monday of every month, for the most part. Bartlett has their regular meeting at the first Tuesday of every month. Twice a year, at least, we have a joint board meeting with Bartlett. The spring one is usually done in Bartlett, and then the fall one is usually done here, where the boards get together to discuss things. That's just the Bartlett and the Jackson joint board meeting. There's another joint board meeting, that's the SAU 9 and SAU 13 joint board meetings, and those happen twice a year too, I believe. Twice a year, there's a joint board meeting between the SAU 9 and the SAU 13, where topics are discussed. And then there's the SAU 9 board meetings that all of the SAU.
Don't tell her about all these notifications.
So our regular board meetings are the ones that you should be attending, and we should try to make, as a full board, the joint Bartlett ones. The SAU 9 meetings, we typically will try to have one or two people that typically always goes to those. Then there's also the executive board meetings, which we would have to meet the chair in order for you to have to go to those. So you're going to hear all those meetings that take place. It's our regular meetings, the joint board meeting with Bartlett, where we should all attend to, and then the added and extra ones are the SAU 9 meetings, which is the SAU 9 schools, and then the joint board meeting between the SAU 9 and SAU 13.
And then the committees.
And then
The calendar.
so you can just clear your schedule for the next 3 years. We'll be all set. But you'll learn the ropes as we go along. Scott?
I just want to say, we pushed up, we used a half hour, we met Barton Jackson, but we put through an hour at 5 o'clock on Tuesday the 1st, because we had issues about the pushing the Conway preschool time, and also community and security issues, so that's what we just get together and just talk, and we will, the principals have to say a word.
Was it 5 or 5:30?
5, we're giving an hour, we asked last time for an hour, so we're going to do an hour. And we'll keep the festivals quiet, just talk.
right?
Both, probably, right? Instructional issues, any consider personnel actions. So again, Kate, just bring you up to speed on these. Basically, what it says, consider on the agenda is when we're actually looking to make a vote. And so by Robert's rules, someone makes a motion for that effect, and then a second, and then opens it up for discussion. Oftentimes what boards will do is we'll just start discussing it, you have to make a motion sometimes, but technically, by Robert's rules, we're supposed to make the motion, second it, then we can begin to talk about that subject. The usual thing that we do is oftentimes we'll let people out there join the discussion with us. Because most of the time they have pretty valuable stuff to input, but basically when we make a motion, then we, in a second, then we can begin to discuss it. But for like personnel actions, usually we wouldn't be addressing on the public, but so that's what you're going to see here is that we right now consider the motion for the election of John Ball as halftime custodian.
Motion.
Second.
Now talk about any discussion about this. Give you word.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Great. I did, no, I guess that should be the issues.
And
No, I don't want to be involved in it.
if there's positions that tend to have more board input, more board discussion, we might have a prior discussion before we're at this point. Things like this basically comes out of the principal and cabinet to fill that position. We typically wouldn't really have much reason to have much input as far as this position is concerned. It would just be basically the committee, which is key, I think, in itself. It would make a recommendation to the board to do that. So the background stuff is done outside this meeting, in the meeting. Unless there's an issue, we would basically just go through the motions, which is what we're doing here. So all those in favor? That's unanimous. FYI, appointment of Sonia Porter as long-term substitute teacher. And we'll just thank Sonia Porter for continuing to step up.
A long time off around that.
Yeah. It's nice to have someone like that that's qualified to come in and just really with our staff and students. And, thanks, Sonia Porter, for that. Next up is the election of personnel for consideration of the election of personnel for the 2018-2019 school year.
Well, we can make a motion first and
I guess consider a motion to approve before we make the motion. Does anyone have any problems with the staff as presented to the interview? Can we go to this as one lump sum or?
I think so. I mean, we've already approved the budget for it.
Yeah.
These do reflect the changes to a couple of those positions, that personalized learning coordinator, used to be enrichment, and it was increased. It also reflects the.
This was all approved at the meeting.
Technology, yeah, all those were approved.
So entertain a motion to approve the instructional staff and support staff of the 2018-19 school year as presented. So
Second.
now, any discussion?
Down about Robert Kurz and Mark Blattman, their position. Robert Kurz and Mark Blattman, their positions.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
Anything else? All those in favor? That's unanimous. And don't ever hesitate just to ask and stop and say, hey, what's going on here? That we understand. And just gently answer the question. Entertain a motion for the extension of the principal's contract. And that would be for the 18-19 school year.
This is just next school year.
Starting one additional year to June.
I know, I don't know what those dates are. Is that correct? The next school year, we were doing it. Whole other week.
No, because we skipped the
I know.
year here, so we'll go back on when we want to do. Motion.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Any questions on the budget, comments?
Do you have any estimate yet for us yet, Kevin?
Any estimates?
General surplus?
Well, not yet. It's only April.
Um, and This is always on our agenda, and so every month we're giving an update on the status of the budget, so it's listed on the form, and it's actually pretty good. Pretty good publication for us to review and see to make sure everything is still on par, or it should be. Administrative reports.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, Katie, I'm going to give you my card at this meeting here. I would invite you to come down to the SAU office, email me. Spend about an hour and a half, and we can walk you through a lot of this. I spent about 2 hours with new Bartlett board members because you're going to get overwhelmed with a lot. And without the information, I think that it's difficult to digest. So I invite you down, or I can come up here if that's easier, and please do so. Board members will call up the office. Usually it's directed to me, and then I can put you through to other folks, but I know Jess is getting the financials a lot of times from Becky, or if there are personnel issues, we can, if you ever have a question on the board meeting, please do. Scott texts me at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning sometimes. I don't get back to him until 6, but he's
How many times I texted you this morning?
I know, there are a few. But,
Does she have a policy binder, or do we need to get that from Andy?
we can get that to you. They're all online too, so we'll walk you through the website and all the information you need.
I know it was a big help last Saturday, I was actually given a physical binder.
There's also a New Hampshire School Board Association orientation. I think, Jess, you've gone to that. There's one in Whitefield coming up in May. That may be something you want to go to as well. A couple of things that Jerry touched on. We do have an SAU 9 board meeting on the 26th. It's at right next door to the SAU office. There's an executive board meeting at 5:30. But at that SAU 9 board meeting, we will be having a presentation from Joe Riddensdale, who runs the School to Career Camps, which are dynamite camps for 6th through 9th grade kids. They offer about 12 different camps to students that are relatively inexpensive, about $100 a week or so, and there are scholarships available, but he will give a presentation, kind of the history of those camps, and also the different opportunities that are there. Really great program, so they're open to everybody throughout the valley. The Bartlett Jackson board meeting, again, check your committees to see what would make sense to, like transportation. Sometimes it would make sense to coordinate transportation with Bartlett as well. I went to Gail's not here, but I had the opportunity March 19th to come up for family night, which was K through 6, and they had, was it K through 3 in the building over here, in the classrooms. Kids did a wonderful job, staff did a wonderful job of presenting what was going on in their classrooms, and just a dynamite job. And then over here on this stage, the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students, they put on, I was extremely impressed by the work that they did. It was a decades project, and they did the units around the decades, and the kids dressed in character, music and slideshow, and they did skits on the stage. And what I thought the teachers and staff and the kids showed were those big ideas about those decades, and that's what you're trying to get the kids to really reflect is what are they going to take away from this? Not that I dressed up in character in the 1940s, but what were those big events that took place in the 40s, and how does it influence us moving forward? And so kudos to Gail and the staff, and just a dynamite night, which was terrific. Other than that, again, the pavilion project, signing away, so hopefully they're moving and maybe they'll get some construction going with the weather here before too long. But that's really all I have.
What do you have on the calendar? Anything?
No, it's just an FYI, it was adopted at the SU 9 board meeting and it goes out to each one of the boards.
Next year's calendar.
So I would love for us, and we can talk about this when we do our committee assignments, but push for the hours. So they talk on that in Conway,
I'm sorry, Keith, what did you say?
to push for hours instead of days. I think it's ridiculous that we haven't had that
Yes,
discussion
we talked about
yet.
that.
I think there's actually some pros and cons to both, but it might not be something that's terribly bad to talk about at some point.
No, we can still keep a minimum of days. We can say we're going by hours, we're gonna have 179 minutes. There's ways that it can help.
But I think just to keep everyone up to date, I think the calendar committee, I think, is not going to be disbanded for next year.
Yeah,
And we pretty much kicked it to
Yeah,
the superintendent to basically get input from all pertinent people, boards being somewhat, and that board being staff and principals to come up with what the calendar should be.
But even if the SU 9 does, we can still do it.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. I can, and I strongly feel we should. Even if they don't, we should push for it, whether we use it or
Out
not.
of the box, Keith, I completely agree with you, but I think that there's some pros and cons to it that we would want to consider, because the hours, they don't, it's not originally as easy as we thought it would be as far as what the hours were, because there's actually more than there may actually be if you just stuck to days, and it's tough, and it really depends on what's.
Because it's educational time, so you gotta take it all. And
Yeah.
Educational time, you gotta take it half days. And I think if you look at the last 5 years, we still would have had school over there. I don't know if anybody's done that exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, are you guys looking at that at the SAQI level?
Well, each board would have to decide on what they wanted to do and how they wanted to go about doing it.
Is Conway looking at it for the high school?
Not currently.
Okay.
No.
Is Bartlett looking at it for the middle school?
May 1st.
May 1st, there you go, okay.
They're gonna start to look at it. I think people are more amenable to it now, better understanding. We're collecting some information as well, and we'll be doing that. Also taking into consideration, in the old days, speaking as an old guy, school ended in June. We didn't think about school, we were fishing and balling and doing whatever until September, unless we get to high school and you're playing sports. Now, what we're trying to capture as well is all the different offerings that students participate in throughout the summer. And we've talked about ELOs, how many students are doing that, how many are working in the work base, how many are going to school to career camps. So all of those pieces kind of factor into the educational programming for students. That is different than when it was originally set up with a 180-day schedule, counting units back in, 1900. So,
And the good news there is it seems like the state's trying to accommodate that.
they do, they understand flexibility around that and the need for it too.
Back to the 26th, I will be here, so I'll be able to make the 5:30 executive meeting, so I'll be down there anyway, so, you just, you don't have to go to all of this. You're probably want to go to some of them, but it's, schedules aren't things, what they are. But just, I'll be there Thursday, so.
And also we're waiting for the Bartlett Jackson board meeting.
Just important, as the SAU 9 board meetings, we have to have a quorum, which means we have to have representation from each one of the districts to vote on anything. So if Jackson, nobody shows up, and one of the smaller districts, Albany, doesn't show up, we almost have to have a non-meeting, and we'd have to have another meeting.
So sometimes at the SAU 9, we try to scramble to see which one of us can actually make sometimes. So it isn't expected that people have to make those, and usually try to figure it out. And oftentimes just because we trust Bartlett's going to be there, they
All
represent.
5
They represent.
Yeah, it's a night out for those guys.
But if there's a quorum issue, then that's a different story. We have meetings all of us to get there. Brings us back to citizen comments. Sarah?
Yes. Seeing that you're having these meetings, And in the wisdom of the town of Jackson, they no longer have Channel 3 where we can watch the Conway board meetings when you meet, or like this Bartlett Jackson board meeting that you're having. Is there any way that in your funds you have the money to see if we could schedule Mr. Benish to go to those meetings so we could have those on our Jackson Flicks as well? Because we lose out on a lot by not seeing that. We don't see Bartlett's meetings and our students go there. We don't see the Conway meetings and our children go there. And these are very important to all of us. I mean, whether you're a parent or just a taxpayer or just a concerned citizen, and we no longer get that view anymore. And that concerns me.
I'm not saying that it's a town issue, let's get Channel 3 back.
And that's kind of where I would push as well, but it's kind of a different subject to address what you're saying specifically.
Right.
We don't have it in our budget to do it, and that's something that we were to put in our budget. I would want to have it pretty well established in our budget. What we're obligated to do is provide public access to our meetings, and that's what the town's responsible for through us. Other meetings we're not responsible to have to publish the minutes or to make public.
Correct,
So-
I just meant like this meeting that you're going to.
Right, but we've always had these, so, and the public's always welcome at these. As far as having coverage of them is concerned, the minutes is concerned, Bartlett publishes the minutes, and those are available to other towns as well, so you can get them. But as far as access to Channel 3 is concerned, I agree with you wholeheartedly, because he said that's a town issue, and I don't have a problem with the board trying to address the selectmen at some point and saying this is something we feel is important for the town to do.
Probably costs more for us to ask them to come to all those meetings than it would for us to meet Channel 3 back.
Correct.
Not necessarily.
So may I ask you to put it on e-news again, that these meetings are taking place? Like, you just get it said May 1st at 5:30 is the, 5, excuse me, I got it written as 5, please God.
Those simple things,
You know, they could be on there so we'd
Do we have
know.
our agendas on e-news?
Yes, it was on, yes, your agenda was on e-news
Well,
today.
it's always in our agendas, these meetings, like they're on tonight's agenda, set date for next meeting, May 21st. Bartlett Jackson Joint Board meeting, May 1st. Kevin gives us the updates on the SAU 9 meetings and executive board meetings. So they end up in our minutes or on our agenda, which go into e-news.
It's one usually not a lot of time
And
before.
forms, and they're posted.
So we're trying to get them out there and everywhere we can.
And they're on the SAU website.
Absolutely.
I mean, I just looked today.
Events calendars.
Yeah, if you go to just SAU 9, right on the front, it's the calendar, and I will say I use it often, so.
We have 2 meetings a year, one of them we come to because it's here. I think we could ask them to come to the other one if he's available.
That's not up to us, that's up to Bartlett. Bartlett was like, we want from there and it's okay, then that would be fine. It's,
We do one of the 2, that's all I was saying. We do a year, and we video one and not the other, so that's what I'm saying.
but we're at Bartlett's location, that's their discretion. Scott?
I'm just trying to come to the first hour at least. May 1st.
Is Bartlett's, I'll talk to Vicki and see if she's okay with that. And then we'd actually have to talk to Hank too and see if he's able to do it.
Probably for one.
Yeah.
I agree with you on the other ones, it's useless, but that one, you know, there might be some good information, there might be, like you said, the safety stuff we're talking about jointly that is a little bit more relevant to the Jackson taxpayer. Something coming out of this,
Well, honestly, we know how Hank is, but it's good.
Thank you.
Anything else? Susan?
I just wanted to make sure to mention that John Stokey's just done great work considering he hasn't had a custodian. And just want to give him a thumbs up, as well as Sonia Porter jumping into the thick of it. And we're really glad to have that. Look forward to Joan coming back too, but Sonia's just been great.
As far as Mr. Stokey's concerned, I don't think I've come by here late any night lately. This truck hasn't been here. He's been out working, and he's really working hard. And this is one of those years where weather has just been miserable, and the conditions of the property has really been maintained very well. I do appreciate the work that he's been doing for that.
I have a whatever issue that is in relation to that. So are we there yet?
I think we're done with public comments? But never really in.
So we talked about thrilled with our new custodian hire. Don't get me wrong, it's not where I'm going with this, but when we had our committee that did the interviews, that I don't know if everybody was aware, but that was our third one this year. Custodian, part-time custodian. So we just thought that maybe there should be a discussion on what do we do next time? Do we keep doing this, or do we have a plan B to create more work to try to keep this position? What are some maintenance things that we're paying other people to do that we can bring in-house? Is there outside services that we could hire instead? We just thought there should be a discussion.
Have you guys pinpointed why the two people left?
It's a part-time position, it's not.
Oh, it's sort of like the other part-time positions.
So what he is bringing up is the idea of how we create stability in that position.
Yeah.
And so we want to think outside the box on how we do that.
Yeah.
Do we talk about Bartlett?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Also as a part-time?
Yeah, and that was what I brought up, because we talked about that in the meeting that day, too.
It's not a joint committee.
May 1st.
Yeah.
Because you guys just hired a full-time and part-time custodian? But you just rehired a full-time staff, we hire all those right now, right?
Refer to
Yeah.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know, I have
I
some.
think it was a half one and a full one, and that's why it kind of came up, was because we had a half one there, half one there. Not anything against our current hire, just to explain going forward. Cool. And then my other board member showing I was prison bags. For some reason, I thought we were stopping with blizzard bags.
I'm not sure what you thought about
I thought Gail had said we weren't doing any more blizzard bags this year.
You thought it was over.
Was that the only reason she said it, maybe? And I didn't.
This is the third one she.
Yeah, because I thought we said two as well.
No, that was in the beginning, that was the first bit.
So we are allowed to have 5, I guess, by the state, but the parents didn't really like doing 5 last year, so we decided, okay, let's try going for 3. And then she wanted to hold one off for just a day like today, where we might as well do a blizzard bag because nobody's going to ski. So they did 2. We had a snow. We had at least 2 days that we would have had to make up and didn't do blizzard bags, and now we did one today, so that we didn't have to make up this day because no one's going skiing this day.
I thought we had a policy too. What was that, what Carl just said for the first?
So when we adopted it, Carl had talked about it being 2 and seeing how good. I was actually thinking about that earlier today too. Right now, this is probably, school week is probably going to be that Monday now, is my guess. I mean,
Yeah,
probably.
Well, it is for
25th or whatever.
Depends which district, but
Maybe not for us, but
Monday the 25th.
but for our middle school and high school kids, it's going to be,
Middle school.
be looking at a day there. So no matter really what we think about the blizzard bags, those last days of school, how effective are they? I mean, the last day is going to be a half day anyway. Because in an instructional day versus a blizzard bag at least gives them some perk.
Oh, I'm not opposed to it. I just thought, I could have sworn we had 2 a year.
No, we adopted it as 5 days to leave that at the discretion of the superintendent and the administration to see, and staff to see how it was working out.
I think we should talk more on that, once we figure out that hours versus day thing.
We did want to ask for discussion again, because last year there was parents concerned about the effectiveness of it, and this year I haven't heard anything. Maybe just because I'm not there, but I don't know about how it's been received. I know last year there were some questions about it, and I think the staff did something to tweak that out, so it'd probably be good to revisit that with Gail and see how effective they've been before July anyway, so.
And then we had road lines, so I think we should not have too much of a discussion on that, we'll exhaust that.
Next meeting, May 21st, 6 p.m., the Bartlett Jackson one we talked about, May 1st, 5 p.m. in Bartlett. There's no certain this, there's not.
It's going to be 5:40, remember,
5:40.
because you're going to assign committees and have that.
Oh, yeah, on our committee discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, sir, you want to make it right?
5:30 is good.
Oh, that's gonna go super quick. I mean,
That's that's what I said, we should have it.
No, I don't have to attend a meeting for it to go super quick. I mean, you put me anywhere you want, maybe that should just be the plan. I won't show up.
Will you reach out before that meeting and they tell everyone what they should like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
So at least we have some input. And then-
Well, yeah, and then what, we come into your neighborhood.
And, yeah, that's information, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll know more after the May 1st one as well, and I'm discussing some of the meetings there, so we'll be there. Officially.
You want to explain the manifest to Katie? That's what it is.
Everybody contacts. I'm gonna do that last one. Yes.
Motion to adjourn?